Welcome back inside Gillette Stadium, everybody. My name is Mike Petraglia, joined as always by Patriots expert columnist for WEEI.com, Christopher Price. All right, Chris, the Patriots and the Kansas City Chiefs on Saturday here inside Gillette Stadium, AFC divisional round playoff, and the Patriots are 2-4 to close out the season, the regular season. Everybody talking about the negative momentum, and couldn't be much more the other side of the spectrum in terms of the Kansas City Chiefs having won 11 straight, the 10 straight regular season games, having beaten up on the Houston Texans, first playoff shutout since the Panthers shut out the Giants back in 2006. I guess the first place to start is, how dangerous are these Chiefs to upset the Patriots on Saturday?
I think they're a very dangerous team. I think when you look at both sides of the ball, what they're able to do defensively, even with a hobbled Justin Houston, they feature a lot of playmakers. I really like Marcus Peters, the young cornerback out of Washington, tied for the league lead in interceptions. He's clearly ahead of schedule when you're talking about the overall maturation process for a young corner. I know Josh Norman gets a lot of ink, but I think Peters is just as good in a lot of ways. Again, Houston is probably not where he wants to be physically, but you have a lot of really big bodies up front. Show real good ability when it comes to getting after the quarterback. They're one of the league leaders when you're talking about sacks. The other side of the ball, Alex Smith does not take a lot of chances. And I sit here and say that like it's a bad thing, but you know, they probably want him to take a few more shots downfield. That being said, he does a great job taking care of the ball. Only 7 interceptions, one of only a handful of quarterbacks this year, group including Tom Brady, talking about guys who started all 16 games and only thrown 7 picks. So one of the things that really came out of the press conferences today, Bill as well as Tom and the guys in the locker room are saying that this is a team that does not beat itself. This is a team that doesn't make a lot of mistakes. This is a team that you are going to have to do your due diligence when it comes to execution, because they're able to take advantage of mistakes. They're able to capitalize on those opportunities, and if they get enough opportunities on Saturday, they have the potential anyway to make it a very interesting game.
I know we do this all the time, it seems like, trying to read the faces and the emotions of Bill Belichick and Tom Brady at the podium and what it all means. Bill Belichick took the podium with a shiner over his left eye, and Mike Reese of ESPN Boston toward the end of the 15-minute presser, showing his compassion for his fellow human beings, saying, "Seriously, Bill, are you okay?" And Bill, without missing a beat, says, "I think I'll live. Yeah, I'll be all right." But in all seriousness, Bill Belichick was not in a very verbose mood. And I think when you look at Belichick press conferences in the past, times like this, and I know you've spoken about this, you've written about it in the past, this means that it is really a serious time for Belichick, because he knows the type of test, the monumental task his team is up against a team, like you said, doesn't beat itself.
Yeah, I think that there are two things to keep in mind here when you try and read the body language of Bill Belichick in a press conference like that. He was very kind of short, to the point, didn't really expand on an awful lot of things. It's, in my experience, is either a very good thing or a very bad thing for Patriots fans. The other thing is, more often than not, attitude like that at the podium is not so much directed at us in the media, but sending a message to the guys in the locker room.
Right.
That this is a very serious matter. This is, you know, playoff football changes, and this is something that we've discussed in the workroom, media workroom. This is something we've discussed with the guys in the locker room over the last week plus. The game changes at this time of the year, and the urgency, the one-and-done aspect of playoff football, that needs to be hammered home, and I think that was one of the reasons why Belichick was as serious as he was today.
Well, and, you know, I'll point to Pittsburgh, Cincinnati on Saturday night. Some teams can handle that sense of urgency, which Tom Brady also addressed at length here on Tuesday afternoon. Some teams can handle it, and some teams cannot. Cincinnati Bengals, clearly, again, we're not ready for prime time. Bill Belichick, and I know he wouldn't say this publicly to us, even though he's been asked it a couple of times since Saturday night, must sit down with his team and go, this is what happens when you lose your cool or you lose concept of where you are in a one-and-done situation.
Yeah, and I know you wrote about that for the website a little bit earlier in the week. It is absolutely vital to get that across to your team. This is a relatively young team. You look at the ages of the roster across the board, and there's some guys who are plus 30, including Brady, Steven Jackson, handful of those guys in the locker room. But when you talk about this roster, when compared to the rest of the league, this is still a relatively young group, even though a lot of these guys obviously played deep into January, were a big part of a Super Bowl team last year. Never hurts to continue to hammer that message home, though, because, again, the one-and-done aspect of it, there is a finality to playoff football. And Belichick has said this on a number of occasions. He said, look, it's like when you get cranked up on the treadmill, and you're going faster, and you're going faster, and you're going faster. When it ends, you just hit the stop button. And there is, like I said, there is a finality to it that I don't think you can properly prepare for unless you've been through it before.
Wall Street Journal's Kevin Clark was here on campus at Gillette Stadium, Bill Belichick University, last week during the bye week. And you and me both know eyebrows get raised a little bit, certainly around the media when he arrives, because it's going to be something outside the box. Well, it turns out on Tuesday there was an outside the box story on why Tom Brady likes to play catch with some current and former players, Brandon LaFell. Catch. And it's not just going in the backyard with your brother and throwing around the football. That's not what it was, and that's what the point of Kevin Clark's story was. He has taken out Brandon LaFell, current player, Tony Gonzalez out in California, and worked on mechanics. And they are blown away, are those guys, when they see how Tom Brady approaches the exercise. And I asked Tom Brady here on Tuesday, what is the deal? Why are you so intense in a game of catch? And he said, we all have to understand this, to me, is life and death. And we get one chance. We work year-round to get our fundamentals straight for one chance in the playoffs. And if you screw up, you go home.
Yeah, and it's 12 months. You know, you don't get another bite at the apple for another 12 months if you're lucky. It is. It's very special. It's very unique. Playoff football, like we said before, changes at this time of year, and I think nobody knows that better than Tom Brady. Tom Brady is going to be playing in his 30th playoff game this weekend. That sets a new high right now at this moment. He's tied with Jerry Rice, 29 games. I believe Adam Vinatieri is either at 29 or 30, but when you're talking about position players, nobody has played more postseason games than Tom Brady. There is nobody better suited in that locker room to deliver that message when you're talking about urgency, when you're talking about the importance of execution in the postseason than Tom Brady. He's been on the winning end. He's been on the losing end. This is a guy who knows what it takes to get it done in January and February as well.
All right, practice here on Tuesday. They did actually go through a pretty intense workout on Monday, but on Tuesday, Rob Gronkowski was not in attendance, while Julian Edelman was. All reports on Julian Edelman seem to be very positive, though the team is not going to confirm the reports out there that he's been cleared to play on Saturday. We assume that to be the case, but I want to get your thoughts on how important those two guys will be on Saturday.
Oh, they're absolutely vital, and I think that earlier in the year when we were giving a lot of credit to the offensive line for protecting Brady, and I'm not saying that they weren't doing a good job, but I think we kind of gave short shrift to the idea that the more important aspect of it, or an aspect of it that was almost as important, was the fact that Brady was getting the ball out quicker than ever. The snap-to-throw time, our colleague Ryan Hannibal does a great feature on that every single week, was 2 seconds or less on most occasions. When he had Gronkowski, when he had Amendola, when he had Edelman, when he had his full complement of trusted receivers. It's like a watch almost. It's like a timing mechanism, because if he has to hold on to the ball an extra second longer, they have to hold on to their blocks an extra second longer. And more often than not, when you get that against a good pass rush, not good things are going to happen if you're the Patriots. So you get Edelman back in the lineup. You have Gronkowski at full health. You have Amendola at full health. Ostensibly, you have another handful of guys, Brandon LaFell, getting work back into the mix there on a regular basis. You have to feel good about the fact that the quarterback is going to feel a little bit better about getting that ball out a little bit faster, whether it's a second or 2 seconds. Quite often that can make all the difference in the world.
I know you like the Patriots to do what everybody expects them to do, or most people do, go out and take care of business and beat the Chiefs. Here's my question for you, Chris. How does this Patriot offensive line, which struggled badly in the final two games, especially when Sebastian Vollmer went down, and he may or may not return on Saturday, we think he will, he's been at practice, how does that offensive line that has struggled so much handle this Kansas City defense and come out with a win?
One of the things you have to do is what we just talked about. You have to put a priority on having the quarterback get the ball out as fast as possible. I think the best possible scenario for the Patriots on Saturday afternoon is to come out, spread the Chiefs out, go 5 wide, go rhythm, tempo, have Brady get the ball out in 2.5 seconds or less to one of those smallish receivers, whether it's Amendola, Edelman. Then you can kind of soften up the defense and then start to look downfield for bigger shots to guys like LaFell and Gronkowski. But you're going to have to be able to kind of speed things up a little bit, and I think that's one way to minimize, not completely take out of the big picture, but minimize the Kansas City pass rush, which again is one of the better pass rushes that they're going to face this year.
And the role of Steven Jackson in trying to keep the Chiefs honest.
Exactly. That's going to play a huge role. I think that Jackson's going to be able to give them 10 to 15 carries, maybe 40 to 45 yards, and really that's all you need from when you're talking about a ground game. The other thing that I want to see, and this is something that he developed a knack for over the course of his career, he's not a bad pass catcher. He's not Kevin Falk or Danny Woodhead by any stretch of the imagination, but at the same time, he's shown an ability to serve as an option out of the backfield, and I'd be fascinated to see if he's going to end up catching 2, 3, 4 balls and work a little bit in that role as well.
And the score.
I think New England ends up winning this thing. I'm going to say 27-17. I just don't think that Kansas City, as banged up as they are, the potential for Jeremy Maclin to be hobbled a little bit, Justin Houston, clearly not at 100%. They have a lot of guys on both sides of the ball, like we said before. A guy we didn't mention, I think might be their number one option in the passing game right now, is Travis Kelce. They have a lot of talented guys on both sides of the ball. They don't turn the ball over an awful lot. I just think that the injuries that they've suffered at this point in the year are going to be too much of a challenge for them to overcome coming in here to face the Patriots.
And real quick, the other divisional game, Pittsburgh at Denver. Who do you like and why?
I just think that it's too much for Pittsburgh to go into Denver. Look, and I wrote about it a little bit earlier in the week. Peyton Manning at home in the cold is a little bit of a dicey proposition. He's 0-4 over the course of his career, 0-5 if you throw in last year's playoff game that started at 40 degrees and got colder. So at the same time, I just think Pittsburgh is too banged up. We talked about the injuries that the Chiefs face. I think the Steelers are facing a similarly uphill climb. I wouldn't be shocked if Pittsburgh pulled it off, but right now I have to go with the Broncos.
All right, we'll see what happens on Saturday and Sunday for that matter. But the Patriots and Chiefs play here at Gillette Stadium on Saturday afternoon, 4:35. We will, of course, have all of your coverage on WEEI.com, the It Is What It Is blog on WEEI.com. Ryan Hannibal will, of course, be part of our team coverage. So will Christopher Price, and so will yours truly. It should be a fascinating weekend, maybe arguably, Chris, as they say, the best weekend in the NFL is divisional round playoffs, and that's what's coming at you this weekend. So inside Gillette Stadium, for Christopher Price, I'm Mike Petraglia, WEEI.com.